One of the main reasons that I got into nutrition was because I noticed that I was feeling differently when I went to classes based on what I ate, and I wanted to really understand how I could improve my focus and my endurance by what I ate, because I knew that that was the biggest factor into my performance and also into shaping my body into what it needed to be to sustain me. How much you're going to eat is going to be dependent on your goals. Some aerialists want to stay lean and limber, while others will want to mostly gain muscle, and then other people are doing it to lose weight. And no matter what your goal is with it, you're probably going to be eating along the same things. If you're already thin, you are probably going to gain weight and muscle, but this does not mean that your body fat is going to go up. And then if you would like to lose weight, you can still build muscle while doing that and become stronger. It's just going to be a little bit different process because you're not necessarily going to be bulking and eating a surplus of foods. You're just going to be eating enough to sustain you and to replenish what your body takes out when you're exercising. When you exercise, your body is depleted of nutrients, and you are going to need extra for it to be able to run optimally. The first aspect of this is timing. So I know that eating well is already stressful enough without worrying about what time you do it, but timing your meals around your workout is going to promote energy through fuel and muscle growth afterwards. So this is important. It's not always what you eat, it's also when you eat it. But you don't want to work out on an empty stomach, but you also don't want to work out on an entirely full one either, or if you've just had a big meal, you don't really want to go right into a workout. Some people prefer to work out on an empty stomach, but I personally don't really feel the best, and it's also not something that's generally advised. Most nutrition experts recommend that you eat 1 to 1.5 hours before a workout, and this generally is true for me. I usually feel the best if I'm eating about an hour before I work out, and then I'm not, overly stuffed, but I'm also not thinking about food the whole time or like fixating on the fact that I'm hungry. If you haven't eaten a lot that day and you're going into your workout without really having a lot of nutrients in your body, you're going to deplete what your body has stored a lot quicker, and this will lead to fatigue and you could even pass out. If you don't eat before you start working out, your body starts taking from your muscle stores, not your fat. So if you're thinking that not eating will help you burn fat faster, this is not the case. Your body immediately eats from your muscles, so you're just going to continue to get weaker if you're not eating properly. Likewise, eating within an hour of working out is going to help your workout endurance and your post-workout energy boost, as well as just support your overall muscle growth and strength in the following days. I'm not saying you have to rush to the nearest food chain right after you work out, but I try to have a snack prepared or something to eat on the way home. That way I can replenish, get a little something in my body before I'm going to be having a big meal. So if you're like me and you have a long commute to train, like to and from, it would probably be the best idea to pack something ahead of time. Usually I'll take a smoothie or mixed nuts or a granola bar. The second aspect that I'm going to focus on is fat. So fat in your food is not inherently bad, and this is a big thing that diet culture has really promoted, is that you need to avoid fat, but this is not the case. Your brain and your body needs fat to run. It doesn't need fat in the amounts that it needs protein or carbs, but it's still essential to your brain health, and without your brain health, the rest of your body is not gonna be there either. So that's important to focus on because, as I said, eating disorders are rampant in not only the athletic industry and performance industry, but also just Western society as a whole. So we need to rethink how we look at food and how we're discussing types of food, because encouraging people to not eat fat for weight loss is, in my opinion, pretty dangerous and not really a healthy ideal to have. At least recreational circus is a very body positive environment, and that's why this video focuses on optimal nutrition for performance and not necessarily to make you look one way or another, although it can supplement that if your goals are to either lose weight or gain weight. it can be applied to either of those things, but I think the main thing to focus on is, are you supplying your body what it needs for what you're asking of it and to build muscle, so that way you can continue to do what you're doing. And I'm going to assume, if you're watching this, that your goals are aerial related or, performance related in some way. And, that entails building muscle and keeping your brain healthy so that way you can focus during class and for performances. Healthy fats are vital to your function. So these types of fats are like avocado, flaxseed oil, flax seeds in general, any kind of nuts or seeds, olive oil, you got like any oils that you can get, peanut butter, nuts, nut butter, that kind of thing, fatty fish. Third aspect is what you eat, and this might be, all you pay attention to, and this is probably, one of the most important parts is what you're eating, because even if you don't follow my advice on timing or any of the other things that I've said, this is still something that if you're at least eating the appropriate things regardless of when you eat it, you're going to be on the right track. Some good recommendations here are things like bananas, eggs, oats, oatmeal, smoothies. If you're looking at bigger meals in general, then I would recommend 25% of your plate to be protein and then 75% to be fruits or veggies or like grains. This is usually followed in the opposite, at least in Western society. Usually people put 75% protein and then 25% grains and veggies, but all of your other food groups are really, really important, and sometimes, that's really all you need to sustain yourself. You need those things to keep things flowing. If you're only focused on protein intake, then you're likely to experience different types of deficiencies and, possibly heart issues. Both before and after you exercise, you want to focus on high carbs and high protein. So I know that I said, don't focus so much on protein intake. That's true, but you still need to think about it. Like, the best time to eat protein in higher amounts is before and after a workout. So, and protein doesn't necessarily have to be a meat. Some examples of some other things that you can be eating would be starches like sweet potatoes and potatoes, leafy greens, pasta, quinoa, fruit, rice. And quinoa is one of those that is a plant food that contains all essential amino acids. So you can't make a complete protein without all of those amino acids. And if something has a protein content, it doesn't necessarily mean that it'll form a protein in your body. If you are combining different protein foods together that have different amino acids, you can form a complete protein. So this can be done with plants, but you just have to know what you're doing. But if you're just eating quinoa, that's one plant food right there. That's like the only plant food that has all essential amino acids that you need in one place. You can also do protein powders or protein bars, but just keep in mind that these aren't always the most healthy options. I would recommend finding one that is really abundant in plant-based ingredients, and I wouldn't do whey protein. That can break a lot of people out. I personally do use protein powders, but like I said, you just want to be really selective about the ones that you choose to use. And then a good one is nut butter, nuts and seeds. I love nut butter, and I will put that in almost anything sweet. Even sometimes savory, that also works too. If you want to look up recipes that use nut butters in savory ways, that's another way to get protein in if you're more of like a savory person. You don't always want to have sweet food. This aspect, this is more of what I eat, and just to like give you an example, I'm pretty versatile in my diet. I'll eat, some days I'll eat worse than others, but at least if I'm going to class or exercising, I'll try to really focus on what I know is going to be the most energizing and muscle building for me. So I'll usually make a smoothie either to drink on the way to class or after I get out. If I don't make a smoothie, I'll eat eggs or oatmeal before, depending on what I have and what I feel like. And then after I get back, I usually try to do that 75 to 25 plate method that I talk about, where it's 75% of, plant-based items and then some other form of protein, whether that is plant-based or not. So usually my plate is pretty mixed between a protein source and then fruits and veggies. Sometimes I make stir fries, and stir fries are one of the easiest ways that I have to make something with a lot of nutrients in it that's also going to fill me up a lot. If I'm feeling indulgent, I'll eat a pasta. So I personally am gluten sensitive, so I shouldn't really be eating a lot of pasta unless it's made with like brown rice or some other wheat-free version. But you know, I'm human and I like pasta, so a lot of the time, especially if I'm getting food out from somewhere, I'll get it with, you know, regular noodles anyway. But a lot of other people don't have issues with this, so feel free to eat pasta if that's what your heart. My knowledge of this comes from the nutrition program that I'm currently in. I'm almost a year into the program and I'm very close to becoming certified. So I have all the knowledge there to be certified. I'm just not quite certified yet. I have to go through the testing and all of that. So once I do that, I'll let you know. But I wanted to provide, you know, kind of my credibility, or, you know, why I'm talking about this, why I have the insight to kind of provide this information right now. I guess if there was going to be a key takeaway from this, I would definitely just say, just try your best to learn about nutrition and healthy eating and just try to apply that. Don't worry so much about timing or all these other things, but if you already feel like you have a good grasp on nutrition and you want to take that extra step and really, really understand how your eating is affecting your performance, I would start taking all those other factors into account and using like the timing method. But otherwise, just eat when you're hungry and try to focus on nutrient-dense foods. That's really my best advice there. Try to avoid things like processed foods. So processed would be anything that comes in a box and is made in a factory rather than grown. So if it's not grown or harvested, it's going to be processed. And you want to try to focus on things that are not refined. So refined would be anything like white rice or white bread, things that have gone through a process and gotten their nutrients basically depleted out of them. And some of these items can be fortified, which means that some of the nutrients that they lost are added back in, but there's a large question about how much your body actually absorbs these nutrients and if they're actually chemically the same as what your body would need. And also, they're usually not as abundant of a supply as what you would get in the natural food source. So opt for like brown rice instead of white rice and wheat instead of white, things like that. Something that I like to go by and what really helps me in evaluating the nutrient quality or like the healthfulness of the food that I'm eating is I look at it and I ask myself, is this real? If I say yes, if this is real food, then, you know, that's how I know that I'm on the right track. And if I'm looking at it, I'm like, no, this food was made, this food was manufactured, that's not going to be doing good things to your body. So if you don't really know where to start with eating healthy, that is something that really, really helped me be able to look at my food differently and be able to measure if it was something that I should be putting in my body.